So the Lakers had such a great young core, and it was darker times, right? Lakers were pretty bad, but it was this hope and promise of like, man, we got all of this young talent. We got this Julius Randle, right? You got Jordan Clarkson, you got Kuzma, you got Ingram, you got Lonzo Ball, and then we had D'Angelo Russell earlier than that, and Josh Hart, and Zoo, and all this stuff. And it's like, man, like if we can just stick together, ride this out, we can win an NBA championship in the near future. And who knows? Maybe that roster could have won, right? Like imagine if we had all the guys that we have now. Now, obviously, Lonzo Ball hasn't played in the last few years, so that would probably be a little rough. But outside of that, having like Kuzma, Ingram, if you had a, Josh Hart, Larry Nance, D'Lo, Jordan Clarkson, Zoo, like how would they fare against like some of the teams in the league, right? None of these guys have emerged as like a top 10 player or anything like that. They've all like, Ingram is really good, but he's not like this, like, is he really like your best player on a championship team? And I'm somebody that loves Ingram. I would love to have Ingram back with Anthony Davis. And LeBron James comes and that changed everything, right? All of a sudden, everyone starts getting shipped out. Everyone ends up getting traded. And then ultimately, we land Anthony Davis. And it worked. It was worth it, right? We won an NBA championship. We could have kept that young core and never won an NBA championship, or still hoping we won an NBA championship. So anytime you can do something to win a championship, that is beautiful. And it worked out, right? And you look at the young core, and again, like I have no problems with the trade-off that the Lakers did, right? And the one guy I wish that the Lakers did keep is Zubac, right? Like they just gave him away with the idea of another plan, and it just never came to fruition. So they basically just gave Zoo away just to give him away. And in hindsight, it was a terrible decision. But he's the one guy that I would have loved to keep. Could you imagine him on this Lakers team? Whew. But anyway, that's neither here nor there, right? The concern was with selling the farm for Anthony Davis was, what about our future, right? LeBron James is only getting older, right? He's at the end of his career. Is he really going to play till he's 40? Well, guess what? Here we are, right? Like at the time, at least, when LeBron came to Lakers, there was a real concern. Like, how many years does he have left? 3 years, right? And now we're what, year 6 or whatever, and he's still a 38-8 guy. So that's been fine. But I understood the concerns and questions of like, if this doesn't work, we're in trouble. And the Lakers were able to win an NBA championship. And then, the Russell Westbrook trade, and that was rough. But ultimately, the Lakers were able to weather that and go and reestablish a very young core. And in my opinion, I think the Lakers are set up better now than they ever would have been with the previous young core, right? Because again, nobody on that Lakers roster is a, superstar top, even 15 player, right? Like Brandon Ingram, a top 15 player, right? I think he's closer to probably, 25, 30. But, outside of that, it's like Julius Randle is a very good player. He's not like this like superstar player. Larry Nance barely gets playing time now. Jordan Clarkson is a great sixth man. Zoo is a solid center, but he's not like, a top 5 center or anything like that in the league. Lonzo Ball, as I mentioned, can't, may never play again for all we know. Who knows? Josh Hart is an absolute, I would take Josh Hart back in a heartbeat. Fortunately, he signed a long-term deal with the Knicks, but he's a guy that would be great. D'Lo, they ended up shipping out because of, the Nick Young controversy, and then they got Lonzo Ball and whatnot. But like, let's say that we would have kept him, which is funny. Now we have him full circle, right? So, that roster, maybe with the chemistry and whatnot, but you would have had to pay guys. And it's like, if you're not this like top team, like, are you paying for mediocrity, right? But you look at the roster we have now, and we have the superstar in Anthony Davis. We have Austin Reeves, who outside of Brandon Ingram, you can make an argument for he's better than everybody, right? Like, I think he's all around better than Kuzma, right? I think he's all around better than Clarkson. Julius Randle, I think he's better than Julius Randle all around, right? Julius Randle is really hot and cold, and even by like the year, like he went from like having the best year of his career and was an all-star and just ridiculous to like almost like his worst season since his rookie year. Like it's just really odd, and then he just has these like fluctuations. Austin Reeves is very consistent, right? Brandon Ingram is the one guy, right? We can't really compare Alonzo and his growth or anything like that just because, he hasn't played in the last like 2 years, right? But you look at Austin Reeves and it's like, who would you take on the young core if you had to get rid of Reeves? Outside of Brandon Ingram, who would you choose? Honestly, I wouldn't take any. I'd rather have Austin Reeves than everybody else, right? On the bottom tier, right? Jackson Hayes, he might be a young piece, 23 years old. He would be solid. We'll see if we're able to keep him long term. I think that's going to dictate this season. But even if you don't, even if you're not able to keep him and Cam Reddish, right? You have Jared Vanderbilt, who is a better defender than everybody on this roster. And if he develops a 3-point shot, watch out. Max Christie could end up, he has the potential. He's still only 20 years old and was just lighting it up. And the Lakers think he's the next big thing. Like he's going to be the next potential star, which if that's the case, then he's better than everybody, right? Rui, like who would you take outside of like Ingram? Who would you take over Rui? I'd rather have Rui than Julius Randle. That's me personally. And look, I was somebody that was hyping up Julius Randle and was praying the Lakers drafted him. I wanted him or Marcus Smart. When the Celtics took Smart, I was like, please get Julius Randle. And we ended up drafting Julius Randle. I was hyped for him. And look, Julius Randle is great. Don't get me wrong. But again, he's a lot of question marks. And he kind of is the player he is. Rui Hachimura has still a lot of upside. I'd rather have him over Kuz, right? Not that Kuz is bad. I like Kuz a lot, but I'd rather have Rui, right? Outside of Brandon Ingram, I'd rather have Rui, right? And then we'll see what Shafino can be. We'll see what Lewis can be. The Lakers are in a great spot. They have the two superstars, which you probably wouldn't have had if you had that young core and that young roster, right? You would have had LeBron James because he went and signed when we had those guys. But like if you didn't trade everybody, would LeBron and that core have won a championship? Maybe. But maybe not. Again, like, is Brandon Ingram, Julius Randle, like if you took, bubble LeBron and gave them this year's Julius Randle and this year's Brandon Ingram, do you think that they win an NBA championship? I don't. I think they could. Is it possible? Yeah. Could you get a couple dominoes fall your way? Sure. But I don't think that they would have been better than like even the bubble year, right? Because Ingram and Randall and stuff. So that's what I'm saying. Like to put it in, you'd have to like use like the players that they are today and kind of backtrack it. I don't think that they would have won. And I don't think they'd be good enough right now to win. Right? Like if you had all those guys. I don't. I think you'd be very good. I think if LeBron could kind of turn back the clock, I think you could win a chip. But look, LeBron is going to leave in the next 2-3 years, maybe, right? And the concern has been answered, right? What happens when LeBron leaves? Well, we have Anthony Davis for the next 5 years. So you got your superstar. You're going to have tons of cap space to go sign somebody, right? Giannis is being thrown out there because you'll have D'Lo off the books and you'll have LeBron off the books. So you have more than enough money to go get another star. And you'd have Austin Reeves, Jared Vanderbilt, Rui Hachimura, D'Angelo Russell, if you want to keep him and re-sign him, Jackson Hayes, if you can keep him, Cam Reddish, like Gabe Vincent, right? Like you're in a great spot if you're the Lakers. You got the superstar and you got the young talent that may be overall better than the previous talent you had. Again, like outside, Brandon Ingram, in my opinion, might be the best out of all of them, right? But he can't stay healthy either, right? Like that dude can't play more than like 50 games. But okay, let's say he can. Let's say he does stay healthy, right? If he's with the Lakers, right? Like, would you take him over Austin Reeves? Would you take him over Rui Hachimura? maybe, right? I might take him over Rui. Reeves, probably, like, if I'm being honest, probably, like, because I do think Brandon Ingram is by far the better player. And look, this is again guy that was praying we'd get him, um, coming out of Duke and whatnot. Like, but it just it was one of those questions of like, you know, who who from the previous core really is better than anybody we have now. I don't think there is. Right? Again, Brandon Ingram, that's it. Outside of Brandon Ingram, I would take this core over that core all day. And we have Anthony. So we basically got our cake and got to eat it too. It's a good spot to be in. And we have LeBron James. And this team could definitely win an NBA championship this year, which means we'd get 2 NBA championships since the trade. And that would mean, like, we'd be set up not only for this year, but for the foreseeable future. You'd be in the position to go get another championship or get another star to potentially win more championships. Where if you had that core, you already would have paid everybody. You would have already been locked in. You would be maxing out Julius Randle. You'd be maxing out Brandon Ingram. Like, everyone, like, you'd be overpaying all those guys to keep those guys together. I think the Lakers made the right decision. Even if you remove the championship, right? The 2020 championship. I think the Lakers are in a better position now than they would have been otherwise. You look at our core compared to, like, Oklahoma City Thunder, right? They're the one young core that I think, like, all right, like, because SGA is becoming an absolute, like, star, right? Chet, if he becomes anything close to what he's projected to be, watch out. Giddey's great, like, the Williams, like, all of, like, they are in a great position, right? But Detroit, I like our young core better, if I'm being honest. They're like all centers, and then Cade Cunningham, who, I like Cade a lot, but again, I like our core. Houston, I'm not really sold on Houston's, right? Like, again, I don't think Houston's bad. I think Houston messed up by overpaying all, Fred VanVleet and everyone else, right? Like, the only core that I would, like, if I had to switch, like, and again, not like pick and choose pieces. Like, if you had to take, you could either have the Lakers core that they have right now, or you could have this team's core. The only other team that I would take is probably OKC, right? Because you give me SGA, Chet, and Giddey. I mean, I would take that over the core that we have. That's the only roster that I look at and go, that could be a problem in the foreseeable future, right? Like, Victor Wembanyama, we'll see how great he is, but, like, outside of Victor, like, I'm not, like, super high on anybody on San Antonio. Again, these are just my opinions. Houston, I'm not really sold on their roster, and I think that they handcuffed themselves for the long term, which I thought was silly. I thought they just needed to stay the course. If you wanted to get some vet guys, go get some cheaper vet guys, but, like, I don't know. It's just my thoughts. Detroit, Orlando is another team, but, outside of Banchero, there's not anybody that I'm, like, super, like, oh man, this team is, like, their core is great, or their players are great. Like, Franz he's solid. Like, I like him a lot. But, like, Orlando as a package, like, I think that they have potential to be good one day, but I'm not, like, super sold on them, right? Like, I don't know. And look, maybe it's partial Laker biased. Sure. Like, if you want to say that, I won't fight you much, but again, make the counter argument. Like, I don't think Washington's core is better than ours. The Magic, I don't think their core is better than ours. The Hornets, I don't think their core is better than ours. The Pistons, I don't think their core is better than ours. The Blazers, we'll see, right? Especially depending on what they do with Dame. That could be a conversation. Again, Spurs, Rockets, I'm not really sold on them. Thunder are the one team where I'm like, all right, like, they could be a problem in a couple years. But anyway, as always, this is a discussion, so I pass the question on to you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. What do you think? Do you agree with me? Do you think, like, yeah, the Lakers are in a better position now than they would have been otherwise? Do you think no? Whatever your thoughts are, I'd love to hear it. Let me know.